I live with type 1 diabetes, diagnosed 24 years ago at the age of 25, so spent a fair bit of my life without it, luckily. So I always did my daily foot checks, probably not twice a day, but at night, definitely. And October of 2017, I got a bit of a blister on my foot, kept an eye on it, and it healed over, kept it very clean, kept it covered. I thought everything was fine. Noticed it again a couple of times, probably within a week or two, thought about keeping an eye on it. It was getting worse. Everything looked fine on top of my foot, on the bottom of my foot. On the surface it looked okay. Had a bit of a poke about, for want of a better word, and then the skin broke and it was not very nice underneath. So that was the point I decided to go and see the podiatrist. So I waited till I came back. It coincided with an appointment at my GP with a practice nurse. She checked my foot because I asked her to. She said you need to go to podiatry, and she rang up and basically I got triaged in within a day or two. Then diagnosed with a foot ulcer, which was the first time I'd kind of considered that I had a complication of my diabetes rather than just an infection. And then kind of the story went on from there. Then on a date that I can't remember, I took my sock off and saw that my toe looked a bit red. So the ulcer's on the bottom of my left foot, about there, if you look at that as my big toe. So I noticed on the top of my foot it was getting red. I couldn't do the foot checks, it was dressed, so I couldn't actually see what was going on underneath. Thought I better keep an eye on it. A couple of hours later it looked to be getting worse. I rang for, this was a weekend, so this was a Sunday morning, so the podiatry weren't about. Otherwise I would have just called in on the emergency number I've been given. I got dialed 111, got an out of hours appointment fairly quickly, probably within about 3 hours. Went to see them at the James Padgett, and they're next to A&E. Doctor said, how can I help you? I said, I've got an foot infection. Obviously, self-diagnosing is not great fun. What makes you think that? So I took my sock off, and by that point my foot was kind of plum purple on that toe. He kind of went a slight pale colour. Took my vitals, did the obs, resting heart rate was 111 beats per minute. I was running the temperature, so infection had really taken over. He took me straight through, I went straight through to A&E, then triaged me to EADU at the James Padgett. Ended up on oral medication, which did clear it up within a week. I did my normal, carried on at work. I sit around at a desk most of the time. I tried not to walk on as much, but I did do quite a lot of walking that week, but it did clear up. I went to podiatry and they didn't know anything about it, so I hadn't told them, and this was only a week later, I hadn't told them because I kind of thought this is okay, and I made the assumption maybe that it would get tied up. And the wound had closed right up, but with probing it had gone a lot deeper, nearly to the bone. Things had changed, so that's when things took a turn, and we started looking at MRI scans, which I got booked in for, and I had issue up an edema and possible bone infection. We tried oral antibiotics for 10 weeks. It started to look like it was heat closing up. So after 10 weeks, things were not really progressing. Let's go, what do we do now? What do we do now? We decided to go on to IV antibiotics. Day one, I was put on my first lot of antibiotics. Day two, and I watched what they did. Next day, I was shown it. Next day, I did it. So the day after that, I kind of did it on my own, and they came and checked, and then I was allowed off into the wild, which was great because I could come. I went in every Sunday, had my bloods done for CRP markers, had the dressing looked at, and kind of brought in my empties and took away a fresh load of prescription for 7 days. How it panned out, so you went for, I worked on like 54 weeks of treatment. Of that, I think it was 32 weeks on antibiotics total at different times, and 15 of those on IV. But I couldn't have done it if I hadn't had that flexibility of doing the self-administering, because I'm self-employed. I missed that bit out. I'm self-employed. If I don't work, I don't get paid.
Can I just get some clarity then, Chris? You talk about the team a lot.
Yeah.
So from what I've heard, the team involves our colleagues at the James Padgett Hospital, our ex-podiatry team and others, all working together to ensure and enable you to have been able to go abroad, etc.
I consider anyone that is involved in my care my team, especially at the start. I could only get booked in at certain, I could only be here on a Friday. It didn't mean I could always go to the same place, which means I started off in Lowestoft and then I would go to Northgate or I'd go to the Paget. My endocrinologists, who were the consultants they called in as well, and the guys at AEDU, everyone was part of the team at some point, even MRI.
If a similar occurrence were to happen again, what could we have done as a system differently or better? Or?
So from a personal perspective, I'd done differently if I'd known, and maybe that, I don't know if that's podiatry or where it sits, but I was doing foot checks. I was checking for breaks in the skin, cuts, blisters, or signs of infection. I wasn't looking for physical changes from the normal foot of what it was. And there's an education piece somewhere about foot issues, what you're actually checking for, and if you notice it, then what is your pathway to getting care? So it's a difficult thing, so we don't want to waste time, we don't want to waste resource, and then obviously when you go to the GP, you see that if you've got a cold, don't do this, which is all well and good and really sensible. It's kind of where do we get the education, the information out, and then that balance of how do you get into the system quickly enough, because if you get a foot infection and your foot goes purple and blows up, you're going to get in the system if you're going to have something done about it. But if it's a broken toe, I question, my challenge back would be if I had a broken toe and I'd gone to A&E, because I'd known about it, would I have ended up in podiatry at any point? It would have been easier personally for me if podiatry had been positioned more closely to the ambulatory care guys, because it would have just meant I probably could have come in on a Friday and have everything done all in one, and probably in less time, because it would have been a lot quicker, I think. I think sometimes I question, the questions I ask provoked podiatrists or other people to go, well, actually, yeah, maybe we could try that, or maybe we could do something like that, because I fully appreciate if you're looking at people's feet, you see many people through your day, through your week. A lot of them have diabetes, some type 1, some type 2, they're all different things, but it's a standard. If we've got this issue, we treat it that way, if we do it that way, if we do it that way. And I think everyone's learned, actually, you need to, I think they knew it, I think it reiterated, you need to treat the person, not just the foot. That's really, really important, and it's the same with any condition. People talk to me, don't talk, ask me how I am, don't ask me how my diabetes is. But tell me why you want to know what my blood sugar is, because actually sometimes we feel that to be quite accusatory, or almost like we're being quizzed, because there's a stigma around complications that it's because you failed, or you didn't look after yourself, even worse, you didn't try, and that's not true. I think I summed it up when I was talking to someone about the care, and I said the care is brilliant. I said it just maybe isn't as joined up as you'd expect it to be, so sometimes you have to join it up yourself, and I think that's probably what I did. You're joining it up yourself, you have to ask the questions, you say how do you do this, and that's example of ambulatory care, had all that, but it wasn't tied back. Okay, I learned that, I could have just easily sent an email when I got home, and that would have done it, or made a phone call on the Monday. So we shouldn't make assumptions as people using the system, but we should also be prepared to challenge back and say, okay, well, there were times when I said, can I see the consultant next week? Can you make sure he's free? And it happens. No one says no. Just ask the question, and everyone's quite happy to work with you. Everyone, the things you did really well was you helped me fit this around my life. 54 weeks, over a year of treatment, you helped me carry on. I didn't actually stop doing anything. I think, joined up care, that's probably the biggest thing for me. We need to work out how to join this care up. And like I said, make sure that people know how to make sure the pathway is clear and they know their entry point.
Okay. Well, Chris, thank you very, very much.
Okay.
That was brilliant.